On now with more. Wendell?
Megan, this apparent tension may be intended to make the Iranians nervous. Officials here, as you heard, say whether or not we get an advance notice of any Israeli attack on Iran is a matter between the president and the prime minister of Israel, and they won't even comment about the reports that Iran is looking to keep us from being held responsible by keeping us in the dark. Prime Minister Netanyahu, of course, headed to Washington this weekend for talks with the president early next week after a speech to a major Jewish public lobby here. He has met in Jerusalem in recent weeks with 3 senior U.S. military officials on this. Joint Chiefs Chairman Martin Dempsey says he advised Netanyahu that it is not yet time for an attack on Iran, but didn't necessarily convince him. Experts say that's because the U.S. and Israel may well have different deadlines.
It doesn't really matter so much to us whether Iran has actually put together the components for a nuclear weapon or decided to do so. What matters is whether they have that capability. You know, Iran being a screwdriver's turn away from a nuclear bomb is really the same as them having a nuclear bomb from our point of view.
Meanwhile, U.S. defense cuts may have an impact on the military option, especially if Democrats and Republicans in Congress don't reach a budget agreement and the so-called sequester, the across-the-board spending cuts kick in. Defense Secretary Panetta told South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham earlier today, we still have a military option, but...
Do you feel confident that we have the ability, if necessary, militarily to deal with the threat that Iran faces?
Yes.
Okay, and if we implemented sequestration, that threat, that ability would be greatly reduced?
That would hurt us.
White House Press Secretary Jay Carney says no option is off the table, but the administration believes there is still time for diplomacy and sanctions to change Iran's behavior, though it has not done so yet. Megan?
Wendell Goller, thank you. Well, back in 1981, during the Reagan administration, Israel decided to bomb a nuclear reactor in Iraq because it was worried about Saddam Hussein pursuing nuclear weapons. So were we warned then? Joining us now, Michael Reagan, political consultant and chairman of the Reagan Group. Michael, were we?
Nope, we weren't warned then. And it gave the President of the United States plausible deniability. He was able to have his meetings with his the counterparts there from the other parts of the world. And ultimately, it went very well. I mean, if you think about this, everybody knew what was going to happen, but what we had to do was say, okay, don't ever do that again, wink, wink, nod, nod. And it almost looks as if that's what's being set up at this point in time. The President of the United States, the American administration here is not doing anything to deter Israel from going ahead with this. In fact, if you really look at this whole operation, the President of the United States really doesn't want to have any part of it. And so Israel is forced to, in fact, have to do the job that maybe you, or not you, but America could do in this case. And again, we'll be in a position of saying, wink, wink, nod, nod, please don't ever do that again. The President of the United States is getting ready to affix blame on Israel, just like he does George Bush.
Is that wink, wink, nod, nod thing something you can only use once?
Well, Reagan used it once. Now, this president's probably going to have to use it here. I mean, if you look at, he's done more to try to deter Israel from doing what it may have to do than deter Iran from building a nuclear weapon at this point in time. And why would Israel trust America with the information that they're going to go in there and take out a nuclear plant? Because they worry, as Ronald Reagan worried back in 1980s, worried about telling Congress about Grenada, because he worried about it leaking out to the press and lives being lost. I'm sure Israel feels the same way about this president and about this administration, that should they go ahead and tell the president what's going on, that news will leak out to the press and lives will be lost, and that's not what they want.
So you think it's more than just Israel's trying to give us and we are trying to get cover politically from this move? You think they actually may not trust us to keep it secret because we don't want it to happen so very much?
Oh, absolutely right, because then the President of the United States has to make some kind of a decision. And I don't think he wants to make a decision. I think at this point in time, he's sitting back going, what do we do now? Where do we go from here? Where can we affix blame? Remember, we have a president who does not like to accept responsibility for anything. And he tries to put it off on someone else. He puts it off on Bush and has been doing that for the last, 3 years? He's been blaming Bush for Afghanistan, Iraq, all that goes on bad in America, the economy, whatever it is, he blames Bush. And I think in this instance, he wants to do the same and blame Israel and let them take the blame and make himself look like, well, Barack Obama.
Well, he may not want, American targets to be retaliated against in the wake of an Israeli bombing on Iran, which is what we're being told could happen. The question really, though, is it going to happen either way? If we come out openly in support of Israel, or if we act like we knew nothing about it, are they going to retaliate against us? Quick final word, Michael.
Well, we're going to be in a position of we're going to get blamed whether we want to get blamed or not by Ahmadinejad and Iran. But the President of the United States still is going to want plausible deniability and be able to blame someone for this situation when, in fact, the blame rests in Washington, D.C., not with Israel. They're protecting themselves. What's Washington doing? Hiding under a rock.
Michael Reagan, thank you.
Thank you.